Right, let's shoot for it then. Let's get started. Welcome back. You've been away for lunch, everyone. Hopefully you've had a nice cool drink. We carry on the analytics track now with Luke Cope. I'll catch questions in the chat and put them to him later on at the end when he's finished his presentation, so feel free to drop them in there, and I'll see you on the other side of the presentation. Over to you, Luke.
Cool, thanks Richard. So today I'm going to be talking about how you can use your internal site search to improve your PR and content strategies. First things first, there's lots of really accomplished, great speakers at this conference. It's probably fair to say that I'm probably not one of them. So a bit of background, I'm Luke. I've worked in digital marketing for 8 or 9 years now, mostly in the digital cul-de-sac of Sheffield. Just after Christmas, I went for a pint with Carrie Rose and Stephen Kenwright of Rise at 7 to see what all the fuss was about. The next day, I recklessly quit my job. And over the coming weeks, I proceeded to guilt trip them into hiring me. So here I am now as a digital strategist at Rise at 7. I asked Carrie and Stephen if they could give me a quote for my first big talk. They're really busy, so I started off Carrie's out for her, and she finished it off for me, which was nice of her. And Stephen Kenwright's got a bit wordy in places, so I've not read it all. So thanks for both of them. So first of all, I'm going to start with the absolute basics. What do I mean by site search? So the bar at the top of your website that your visitors will use to find something, it's usually at the top of your website anyway. Why is it important? So it's not just useful for your customers, and it is useful for your customers. They'll use it to find something they can't find on your website or in your main navigation, or they'll use it quickly to find a product or service. But it's mega useful for you too. So 30% of visitors perform a site search, and they convert a lot higher than those that don't, which makes sense. They're showing an intent to find something. They're probably more likely to convert. It's essentially a data gathering tool for you. It'll help you come up with cool, unique digital PR campaign ideas. It'll help you identify gaps in your site content and your content strategy. And it can even help inform new product launches, which I'll talk about in a second. It will also help you measure further successes of your campaigns. And basically, it will help do your campaigns justice when you come to reporting on them. First, though, I've got a step-by-step guide on how to set up site search and analytics. I'm just joking. I'm not going to take you through that now. There's a perfectly good guide from Google itself on how to do that. It's fairly simple. It's just a case of actually switching on site search tracking and making sure the query parameters are correct. But I've got lots to get through, and I won't go through that now. There's a perfectly good link there, which I'll share at the end. So in terms of where site search sits in GA, if you go under behavior, site search, and then the area you're probably most interested in is the actual search terms themselves. So once you click on search terms, it will bring up these metrics. So you'll have a long list of search terms underneath. You'll have the total unique searches for each of those search terms. You'll have the percentage of search exits, so people who've left the site after performing that search. The percentage of search refinements, so the people who have gone back and changed their keyword in their search afterwards. The time after search, well, how long they spend on site after search, and the average search depth, so the average amount of pages they view after that search. And what you want to do is add in transactions and revenue to that custom report. So you go to edit, you go to add metric, and you want to add in revenue and transactions to this report so you can see the commercial value of those individual search queries within your site search. You'll end up with something a bit like this. So it'll have all the same metrics again, but on the right-hand side, you'll have transactions and revenue associated to each individual search term too. And you want to set the date parameters to perhaps a year or 6 months, and then export the first 500 rows or so to a spreadsheet. Okay, that's probably as boring as it's going to get this presentation, hopefully. So I'm going to go through now how you can actually use that data and how you can use it to inform product PR and launches, how you can use it as an additional reporting method for digital PR activities, how to come up with cool campaign ideas, and also how to improve your content strategy with it. First, though, how to use the data to inform products and product launches and your product PR. So what you're looking for is you want to find products that users are searching for, but they're not getting what they need, i.e. their search isn't being satisfied. You'll end up with something like this when you export into a spreadsheet. I've added conversion rate to this too, and then filtered it by conversion rate, lowest conversion rate. So you'll end up with, what you're looking for here is basically search terms that are high in volume. So down the left-hand side, you want them high volume, but they have a high percentage search refinements, which means people are going back and changing that quite frequently. Or you might want to look out for real low search refinements. That implies that you don't even stock that product or service. You want a low time after search, low average search depth, and a low conversion rate. And the ones I've highlighted in pink sort of meet that criteria. So a lot of them have high percentage search refinements. Some of them are at 65%, but they're high volume searches in the internal search. And they all convert pretty low too. So it means that there's a demand for a product or service that you don't currently sell, or you don't currently sell very well at least, which means your customers aren't getting what they want. So here's an example of how that's come into play before. So with Misguided and a maternity range. So historically, Misguided didn't actually sell a maternity range. And even though thousands of people per month search for it on their internal site search. And we didn't use this to inform them to start selling the maternity range, but we could have done. Luckily, they're already launching a maternity range, so that was great. We helped them launch one. We did what we do on digital PR, and we got coverage in relevant press and publications about the new maternity range. And of course, they did their own activities in-house as well. And obviously, we're generating traffic to the category and product landing pages. But what about site search? So there was an impact on site search. Here's a kind of before and after comparison. So after the launch of the maternity range versus the previous period, you can see that people were searching for maternity ranges before. There's 557 people there for this particular period. But they're now profiting from introducing a product range that was already in demand. So before they weren't getting what they needed from that search. Now the percentage of time after search has gone up. The average search depth has gone up. And of course, transactions and revenue have gone up because they actually stock the product now. And searches, of course, gone up because of what they, now they actually know they're stocking a maternity range product. So here's the reverse of that. So here's a sports retailer who didn't actually sell the product in demand. And the product in demand at this point was weights. So during lockdown, I think there was a shortage of gym equipment and weights. So on this particular site, 10,000 people were searching for weights during lockdown. And you can take that bit of information and say, okay, the average site conversion rate from site search is 5%. The average order value for weights, £30. You can tell I probably don't order weights that often. I don't know if that's right or not. So you can calculate the estimated revenue gain from that as being about 15K. And you can start using that demand from internal site search to start generating discussions on what products you're going to launch and what products you should be stocking, because there's a demand for them. So that was a bit of a snippet of how to use the data to inform product PR and some of your launches. Next up, I'm going to go into how it can be used as an additional reporting method for your digital PR activities. First of all, though, you've got to think about what people actually do once they've seen one of your digital PR campaigns. Once you've figured out what people do, then you can start matching that up with how you report on things. So the first thing that, or the most common thing that people might do when they see one of your campaigns is do nothing at all, which is absolutely fine. I mean, good luck to them. I'm not bothered whatsoever by that. And it's obviously their loss because our campaigns are really cool. Second thing someone might do once they've seen one of your campaigns is actually click on the link from the campaign coverage to your website. Because we can track that as referral traffic in Google Analytics. And you'll probably see something a bit like this, a big influx of traffic to a particular landing page after the launch. And then it will probably slowly die down as the coverage stops coming in and the links stop coming in. And you'll probably start picking up traffic from additional sources long term. The third thing someone might do once they've seen one of your campaigns, they might Google the campaign. They might Google the campaign name plus the brand. This sounds optimistic, campaign, and then go away and Google it. But it does happen, particularly if you have a campaign that does really well. And you can track that as branded search plus the campaign name in Search Console, or just the campaign name. So I'm not talking rubbish here. It was a dinner campaign that we did. It was Christmas dinner in a can. It was absolutely, really, it did really well in terms of links and coverage. It was a kind of a highly viral type of campaign. But console, people were actually looking for the product. So people were searching for Christmas dinner, gain Christmas dinner, buy Christmas dinner. People were looking to buy the thing. So that's what another thing you can do and match it up with your reporting based on what people actually do once they see a campaign. The final thing that someone might do, actually on your website, they might try and find the campaign either by the main navigation or by an internal site search. Again, this sounds optimistic, but if you have a campaign that does really well, this will happen. And PRs only usually report on a few of those metrics. Usually report on coverage and links maximum. And we usually forget about site search. So here's an example. So misguided again, but this time for a dog jumpers range. We launched a rather cute matching roll necks for you and your dog. This was a lot more kind of viral to the maternity range, and it got a lot more pickup. It went everywhere. We got links off Tyler, Metro, The Sun, etc. So this is one of those campaigns that did do really well. And we got loads of links and referral traffic to the landing page. And it made dog jumpers a thing. So actually during the launch in November and December of 2019, there was more people searching than there was the previous year because we kind of forced the narrative of this product. We created a bit of more people searching for it. And this isn't just to kind of backslap ourselves, but it's to show you the additional things that do happen if you have a campaign that does really well. And you wouldn't think about site search. So when we checked out site search, there were over 53,000 people searching for dog-related during the period after the launch of the campaign. An insane amount of people searching for dog-related products. And without looking at that, we wouldn't have known the campaign's full impact, and our reporting wouldn't have been as good. So here you can see, and also a hell of a lot of people bought dog-related dog jumpers and that as well, so we can track ROI from that campaign too. So if you have a campaign that does, I'd really advise to start including it in your reporting. Report on coverage and links. You want to report on referral traffic. You want to maybe even report on campaign searches or traffic from Google Search Console. Direct and assist conversions of people landing on those pages too. But make sure you include site search and make sure you check out to see if there's been an impact on site search. So that's how to use it as an additional reporting method. Next up is probably the most interesting bit. So it's how to use that data to come up with unique campaign ideas. So journalists love unique data. I'm not telling a digital PR something that they don't already know here. It's a really important part of digital PR now. And all the best PR campaigns use data in some form. It's really hard to think of one that's done well that doesn't use data. And here's some examples. So the Cosmetify index that Digital Loft did, that's got loads of different types of data in. It's a great campaign. I think we all remember the cheapest pint buy tube stop in London piece of content that uses all the data. And Pornhub are really great at using data as well, amongst other things. But it's pretty saturated out there. With journalists receiving hundreds of pictures a day, it's really hard to stand out. We're competing against each other. Big agencies might be competing against themselves for space in the journalist inbox and to actually get things published. It's uber competitive at the minute. And depending on what type of site you run, you might be sitting on an absolute goldmine for campaign ideas that are really unique to your brand. And we're talking about kind of sweet spot content here. So in the left bubble is things that you do as a use, what you sell, your internal news, but sometimes that can be too internally focused to actually be talked about by journalists. So journalists probably don't care that too much about the bake sale that HR had, for example. And on the right bubble, you have sites, stuff that sites and journalists actually talk about. So what they publish in your industry regularly. And sometimes that can be too far removed from the brand that it becomes irrelevant, or that in most cases, you just won't get a sign off on your ideas. From site search data can sit in the middle sometimes, so they can be a pretty happy ground. They can be a sweet spot for content campaigns. So I'm going to go for an example. Here's a private number plates company that I worked with a few years ago. The kind of absolute ideal client, really, when it comes to harvesting site search data. So 4 million people had used their site search to find a personalized number plate. And we caught all that in Google Analytics. And this gave us so many angles for digital PR. That GIF there is Kurt Angle, the wrestler. I've not just put these GIFs in willy-nilly. It's layered comedy, I promise you. So what we found was that FOC was searched for more than mom or dad. People were searching for that on their private number plate in higher volume than searching for mom or dad. And people were searching for more explicit terms than that too, but I won't say them now because preferably want to keep my job. Liverpool Football Club was the most popular football team search for a number plate, and we put that in a league table with the rest of the popular search terms like Chelsea Football Club, Man United, Leeds. And site searches were actually mirroring trends in pop culture too. So searches for dabbing were on the rise. This was a couple of years ago, this campaign. And thankfully, that died out. And searches for ream were on the decline. So people were searching for ream number plates when The Only Way is Essex was popular. And as it sort of died off, people stopped searching for that. So searches were mirroring trends in pop culture. And people were actually searching for Brexit and Trump number plates too. Make of that what you will. And you can guess what the mail are. They went with car owners want fuck on their plate than mom. But the point is this took a day to pull together, and we picked up coverage and links from national press. It was one day we were able to pull out 8 or 9 really good angles. And we could do this campaign again tomorrow and it would work because the data is fresh. And we are doing a similar campaign soon, and people are searching for COVID number plates, which is crazy. But if you go back to kind of sweet spot content, so in the left all with the stuff you do as a company, this private number plate company, they had things like DVLA announcements, general sort of private plates content, offensive plates, their internal news. But there wasn't much evidence that any kind of campaign like that would do well. Whereas the stuff that journalists talked about were footballers' cars, celebrity car collections, things that were associated with an affluent lifestyle. So we did campaigns on a footballer's car calculator, which showed how long you had to work to earn a footballer's car versus how long they had to work to earn their own car. We did celebrity car collections pieces that picked up links, but the bit in the middle, the data on plates, that was a happy middle ground. We got sign off on that straight away pretty much, and it did well. So that's where return come in. Site search data, we didn't use any other data in that campaign at all other than site search. And you can get sexier data than number plates. So lockdown loving. During lockdown, site searches for lingerie went up 300% versus the previous year. So you can take that little snippet of data you get from your internal sites, and you can start thinking, okay, are people sending more pictures to each other? Does this correlate to more people signing up for OnlyFans? Are people just stockpiling for when lockdown ends? We can see here actually that the internal searches for lingerie over a period of time was in a higher percentage than what they were on the lead up to Valentine's Day. So that's a hook in itself for a campaign idea, or even just a bit of outreach based off that. But you can start these pieces of data and start brainstorming from there. What we've been doing is actually we've been building links direct to the lingerie category page, which is notoriously really difficult using that data because the campaign is related to that page. What that means is, so we've been doing that, building links, and at the same time, we've been improving the amount of internal content they have on their site around lingerie and improving the internal link in between those. And so they've gone from ranking 6th for lingerie. They haven't ranked in the top 3 over the past 12 months for those terms, and they're now ranking 1st. I think they're actually ranking 2nd. I checked this morning, but I'd already put the presentation together, which means an extra 17,000 hits year on year from organic search. And it all stemmed from a bit of research into site search data. And they're sexier data than lingerie, believe it or not. Slippers. So during lockdown, more people were searching for slippers than in winter or at Christmas. So judging what people were searching on internal searches, loungewear, joggers, slippers, if they were going to get through this, they were going to get through it really comfy. So you can take that snippet then and start brainstorming ideas, but it also links back to informing what products you have on your website. If you're not currently stocking slippers, there's a demand for them, you probably should be stocking them. And you get even sexier data than slippers, believe it or not. What's sexier than slippers? Yeast. Took the words right out of your mouth. So people went mad for baking and brewing after lockdown. So, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of searches a day for yeast on this particular brand's internal search. If you can couple this up with a survey or a piece of data visualization, and you've got the starts of a digital PR campaign. And we also know that journalists were talking about it in general. So they're talking about more people baking during lockdown. So you can start using your data then to do a simple piece of outreach as a unique data to that, as a source almost for that journalist story. So it doesn't even have to be a big campaign. It can just be the expert kind of opinion that feeds into a piece similar to these. So that was how to come up with cool campaign ideas. Next up, I'm going to talk about how you can use site data to improve your content strategy. So people might be using your site search because they can't actually find what they're looking for in the main navigation. So it can highlight an issue like that. They also won't just be using your site search to find products, but to find answers to questions. So what you're looking for here, if you go back to your initial export of a spreadsheet, is you're looking for like informational based search terms. So like how is a good filter to start with? But actually, usually lots of queries will be really specific related to your business, especially if it's a complex buying decision. So as an example, so if you're involved in hospitality, it might look a little bit like this. It might be like real functional type queries like map, Wi-Fi, directions. More recently, it might look a bit like this. Unfortunately, it might be more coronavirus related and a bit more negative, but still, if people are searching for that on your website, it's probably quite important that you've got answers to those queries. And this might be like information that people need whilst on site. And whilst on site, I mean actually in person at your attraction or whatever, that they can't find. So it'll be real functional stuff to do with accessibility, Wi-Fi, directions, that kind of thing. The kind of probably a bit more mundane type of content, but really important that you have answers to these search queries on your website. And if it's really important information that they can't find easily whilst actually at your attraction, how many others couldn't find it and therefore didn't even convert in the first place on your website? That's why this kind of stuff's really important to make sure you have answers for. We've got an example here of a recruitment service for an oil and gas contractors around the globe that I worked with a few years ago now. So moving to live on one of these things across the other side of the world is a big decision-making process. It might take months. There'll be loads of information that you need to gather along the way. If you're going to go move to Papua New Guinea or Australia or the north of Scotland for months on end, real big decision, and it probably involves more than one person. It probably involves a family decision. And thousands of people per month were searching for terms like Australia and Australia relocation on their internal site search. So we created guides on relocations, like relocation packs, for the most searched for areas that would show up alongside the job specs in the internal site search. So the job specs peaked and troughed too. They didn't always have a high volume of job specs on the website, because I guess that's just how the industry works. So during that time, we could populate search results better with these kind of guides too. And these guides contribute to thousands of assisted conversions a month because they tapped into answering questions that audience needed answering in order to come to that informed decision. Makes sense. And we can go a bit further than just content showing up in the search results too. So earlier we used site search to identify a demand for products. And if there's a demand for products, there's probably going to be a demand for content related to those products. So if you go back to yeast again, we know that that was a product in demand. You can take that bit of data. And then this is a tool from SEO Monitor, which is quite cool, which shows the before and after kind of search volumes pre and post COVID. So then you can start coming up with ideas on content people are actually searching for. So it makes sense for people who are searching for how to make bread. And then you look at the difference. If you look at April 2020, 135,000 people searched for that, whereas only 10,000 people searched for it last year. So there's demand for that content too. And it's the same with things like tiger bread recipe. You can see that that's spiked as a topic in trend, and you can take that initial bit of search data you got from yeast and start expanding out into other content pieces that you can create. So another example, weights. Earlier we said that was highly in demand. So if that product's in demand, then there's probably content related to that product that's also in demand. So if you look at weights workout using the same tool again, you can see that 6,500 people searched for that in May 2020. Only 1,500 people searched for it in May 2019. So there's a spike in demand for content related to those kind of searches, and that probably isn't even the right search term to put in there. But as a topic overall, we can see 2.2 million people are searching for things to do with that, versus only a high volume of people last year, but nowhere near as what it has been this year still. The same client who didn't stock weights when people were, or the same brand that didn't stock weights when people were searching for it on their website, people were also searching for skipping ropes as a product because it's a home workout product. It makes sense. I may or may not have put on a bit of timber during lockdown. I may or may not have searched for this term myself. But if you look at skipping to lose weight, for example, as a trending term, 5,500 people have been searching for that in May 2020, only 880 this time last year. So you can start producing content around stuff like that. Even if you don't really stock the product, they still stock products that are relevant to people who work out. So how it all fits together. So at the top, you've got these interesting bits of data you can pull out of your internal site search. There might be trending, there might be historical data. Your things like lingerie, yeast, slippers, also known as just a great Tuesday night in lockdown for some people. Your popular number plates, your snippets on a demand for a product like maternity. These can go on to inform then a handful of digital PR campaigns and product launches. So things like your lockdown loving, your number plate data, and maybe a launch of product launches too. But from that, you've got a wider set of content that you can produce based on that initial demand that you've spied. So your how to make tiger bread, a lingerie size guide would make sense, and a weights workout. And this is a higher volume of content that you can go out on multiple different tangents. And of course, it can be promoted across various different mediums as well. So we've been through how to use the data to inform product PR and PR launches. Additional reporting method for digital PR activities, I think it's really important to include it, especially if you have a campaign that does really well. It helps do your campaigns more justice when it comes to reporting on them. We've been through how to come up with cool campaign ideas. I've showed you a couple of examples of how I've used it in the past to come up with campaign ideas, but there'll be loads and loads that you can use that are real specific to your industry. And the same with how to improve your content strategy too. There'll be real specific examples specific to your brand or industry that you can pull out of site search data and start implementing that. Yeah, that's me. I think we've got time for a Q&A. I'm happy to take any questions if you've got them burning. If not, please feel free to tweet me any feedback, questions, general abuse at those handles.
Hey,
top one.
That was brilliant. And I was laughing but muted to not distract you. Although I know presenting like this, you miss out on some of that kind of audience feedback.
I'm used to the sounds of silence.
Deadpan. I had one question really around. First of all, great presentation. Really liked the search refinement report. The idea of prioritizing by queries that have the most refinement over time. I think that's a great way of prioritizing, because again, a bit like the Facebook presentation this morning, when you've got access to site search, I guess you feel a little bit like a kid in a sweet shop. Where do you start? What do you look at? When you work with clients, is this a regular thing, or is it something they only kind of do occasionally when they feel the need? Is site search really a focus?
It's something we started implementing a bit more. So I think we use it as a tool to kind of bolster our campaigns or bolster our outreach or our approach to things. So it's something I tend to look at when we get a new client pretty much straight away. So I can start picking up things from that straight away. And then we've started to use it a bit more in reactive stuff. So that the lingerie stuff, for example, that's a reactive piece of ongoing stuff we're doing. It wasn't a big campaign by any means. So it can help with things like that. I think I tend to use it as a bit of a weapon when we're trying to get a sign off for campaign ideas too. Like I said, you can struggle in the past trying to get sign off on campaign ideas that are going to work, but are probably a little bit removed from the brand. Whereas if you use sites, you've got that evidence there that we've got a campaign, and it does overlap with what they do usually as well. So yeah, selfishly, we can use it sometimes to get signed off on campaigns as well. But it's not something that I see everyone using all the time. I think depending on what type of sites and what type of clients, people should be using it a bit more. They should be harvesting that data a bit more. But yeah, it's not something I see all the time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I've seen it a lot more on the paid side, where people are kind of using it to kind of match, paid search queries with, oh, they came in on this term, but really wanted that thing. So there was an issue around terminology and naming and such like, and one of those things. And the other Luke earlier obviously pointed out the great example of product names being spelled wrong and different interpretations. Gave you a great way how to fix that. So, I mean, for you, is it really the best thing you can do with this, apart from validate that something's works? It's really a great source of campaign ideas, is it?
Yeah, I think, I tend to use it mostly for that kind of stuff. I do tend to lean towards creative side anyway, so that's probably why. I mean, there's loads of functional uses to it as well, like your content strategy, making sure those queries are answered, even if they are not as interesting as a whole set of data that you can use for a creative campaign. But yeah, we've started to use a few examples of it now where we're using it to form the unique data for the campaign ideas. And it can just be used as a bit of snippet of data you get from your site search that you can then start brainstorming from. Like I said, the lingerie data, it's like, okay, why are more people searching for lingerie? Perhaps we can couple that up with a survey to their actual followers and find out why. Or it can be used to form a whole set of a campaign idea, like the private number plates example. We are doing a similar piece at the minute, and it pulls out 8 or 9 angles that are really PRable pretty quickly. So yeah, we tend to use it quite a lot at the moment for either forming creative ideas or using it as unique data within those ideas.
I'm just trying to work out whether there's also an angle of maybe we really choose the clients or go for the clients that might have some interesting data as well. If I putting an agency hat on and be like, do you know what? There's going to be nothing in that. Right over there. I'm going to go for this one over here.
Yeah, sometimes I've been in site search and there's been nothing there. It's been disappointing. But when we do get a new client and I know that they get a lot of traffic and they're the kind of site where users use that internal site search, then geekily do get a little bit excited by that and tend to try and get access to analytics straight away to see what we can do with it.
Awesome, brilliant. They're the questions. We've done great. I know you're melting alive there, and you probably want to open a window and get some fresh air. But absolutely, that was wonderful. Thank you very much, Luke. Very good. Big on the humour. Love it. Love a gif as well. So thank you again for doing that. And we'll step away now because we've got to do a switch over to get Yahosha over in this room as well, because we haven't got a break in between. Okay. And there you go. You got the thanks coming through on chat.
Nice one. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.